Have you ever stopped to think about the hidden rulebooks that run our lives? I'm talking about the invisible operating systems that control everything, from how your body fights off a late-night pizza to the way AI is learning how to think. It all comes down to this really powerful idea called systems thinking. And trust me, it's going to change how you see, well, pretty much everything. So let's just jump right in with a wild question. You feel like a single, solid person, right? You're the one making your own choices. But what if I told you that you aren't really in charge? What if you're less of a solid thing and more of a dynamic pattern, like a wave in the ocean, constantly shifting and reacting to everything around you? And that's the core idea right there. You're not one thing. You're this massive collection of countless interconnected systems. And understanding these hidden layers, these invisible gears, is the key to making sense of it all. To really get it, we've got to start small, like really small, at the level of life itself. Okay, so let's start with the most complex and personal system we'll ever know, the one that's humming away inside your own body right this second. The best way to picture your biology is to think of it like a language. The alphabet is tiny, just 21 amino acids. You string 50 or so of those together, and boom, you got a word. That's a protein. But here's where the magic happens. A single protein on its own is basically lifeless. It only really comes alive when it interacts with other proteins to form a sentence, what we call a biological pathway. We're talking about literally thousands of mindless protein robots, all just executing commands to keep you breathing, to keep your heart beating, all without you ever having to think about it for a second. So all these intricate biological systems are constantly chugging along, but what's their goal? What are they trying to do? Well, it turns out, just like your bank account, they're trying to balance a budget. There's a scientific name for this balancing act. It's called homeostasis. It's just a system's natural drive to keep things stable and predictable. Your body is an absolute master at this, especially when it comes to managing its energy budget. And this, right here, is where we humans tend to run into a little trouble. So let's say you decide to go on a new diet. Your conscious goal, the one you set, is to burn more calories. Simple enough. But your body's ancient, deeply programmed systemic goal is the exact opposite. It's desperately trying to prevent energy bankruptcy at all costs. It doesn't see your extra morning run as a healthy choice. It sees it as a direct threat to its carefully balanced budget. And so your body kind of sabotages you. It might make you fidget a little less later in the day, or maybe even dial down your immune system just to save a few precious calories. It's not being lazy. It's a finely tuned survival machine. You have to remember, for our ancestors, burning more calories than you could find was a one-way ticket to a spiral of starvation. Your body's just doing its job, you know? It's optimizing its resources based on a program that's been field-tested for thousands of generations. This brings us to our next big idea. And honestly, it might be the most mind-bending and incredible part of all of this. We're talking about the magic of emergence. Emergence is what happens when a whole system develops properties that its individual parts just don't have. For instance, a single molecule of H2O isn't wet. The quality of wetness only emerges when you get trillions of them together. Or think about this. A single ant is pretty dumb, right? But an entire colony can build these incredibly complex cities. And here's the most profound one. A single neuron in your brain has no consciousness. It doesn't have feelings or thoughts. But you put 80 billion of them together, and suddenly you get you. Your thoughts, your fears, your dreams, it's all an emergent property. So you can see that reality is basically organized in these emergent layers. You go from atoms to molecules to cells, all the way up to organs, then to you, and then finally to society. What's so fascinating is that these layers are mostly independent of each other. A biologist studying a cell doesn't really need to know the rules of quantum physics. The system at one level just works, without needing to know all the rules of the level below it. But what happens when one of those systems breaks? And this isn't just some abstract theory. We are living through some massive system failures right now, and they're mostly caused by a mismatch between what our systems were designed for and how we're using them today. Just take our information ecosystem, for example. It used to be built on this incredible library of human knowledge, but now AI models that were trained on that great library are just flooding the internet with, well, mediocre, low-effort content. Some people are calling it AI slop. And this creates a terrifying feedback loop, because now the new AI models are being trained on the garbage that the last generation of AIs produced. The system ends up poisoning its own well.
And the result of that? Well, the system starts churning out these shoddy conclusions that sound really plausible, they sound smart, but they're just confidently incorrect. When you poison the source material of a system, it's no surprise that the whole system starts to fail.
Here's another example, one that's probably a lot closer to home for most of us: your stress response. This thing is an ancient system, and it was perfectly designed for short, intense bursts of survival, fighting off a saber-toothed tiger. But today, that same incredibly powerful system is getting triggered by a constant flood of deadly emails, nonstop notifications, and endless doom scrolling. And because that system was never, ever meant to be on all the time, this constant overactivation creates what can only be described as a hellish, vicious circle. It damages your heart, it literally rewires your brain to be more anxious, and it makes you a worse version of yourself. It's a perfect system being used in a completely wrong context, and the results are frankly disastrous. So, I know this can all feel a little overwhelming. It's easy to feel like you're just this tiny speck caught in these vast, complex machines. But here's the thing. Understanding the system is the absolute first step to changing your place inside of it. I think the best way to think about it is like a grand symphony. If you only listen to the violin, you're missing the whole point. To truly hear the music of reality, you have to step back and appreciate how the brass and the drums and the strings are all playing together to create the whole song. Seeing the world this way, it's like a superpower. You might not be in the driver's seat for every single one of your body's internal processes, but you are the storyteller. You're the one who gets to decide which systems you feed, which feedback loops you encourage, and which ones you're going to break. So the real question is, now that you can see the gears turning, which systems will you change?